This is the JWN podcast. My guest today is a Charleston-based artist who's channeled life's troubles into his artwork. Originally from a small town in Alabama, Patrick Pricket found himself in South Carolina for a work assignment which became the home for his artistic pursuits after a relationship that didn't work out. Through that, he's carved out a niche in TV and film production when he landed a job creating paintings for the Stephen King series Mr. Mercedes. He's involved in so many creative endeavors, and we talk about a lot of them here. So let's just get right to it. Here's my conversation with Patrick Pricket. All right, and then just get right up on. You have your own podcast. You know how to do this stuff.
Yeah, a little bit.
Your podcast gets a little bit more into the wild stories of youth.
Yeah. It's more about that than it is the current stuff. It's all 19-year-old, 20-year-old Patrick and Kara. And
I like the idea of it. It feels like two people getting to know each other.
Yeah. Then that's what it is. Yeah. The whole thing.
And it's kind of interesting to see two people kind of become friends. Using this kind of very 2020 medium to get it done.
Yep. Yeah, she was like, I want to do a podcast. And I said, well, fuck, I'll do a podcast with you. Why not?
Yeah.
And neither one of us knew what the fuck we were doing. It was literally, well, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
It's so much better than when you try to do research for a podcast and you see all these posts, say on Reddit, where there's people who are getting ready to get ready.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I've got this idea. I've been sitting on it for 18 months and I'm planning and and the best thing to do is just do it.
Yeah. And I had no intentions on ever doing a podcast. I mean, I'd been on radio stations and things like that, and came in and talked about my art, but like never like that. Not what Kara had going on. She was like, let's do this podcast. And I was like, all right. I was like, do you know how to do one? She's like, no, but I have all these ideas. And all right, cool.
Heck yeah.
Let's do it. And then it was weird because like I only met her because she bought a painting. I'd never met her before.
Isn't that interesting?
It was, like you meet somebody and like all of a sudden they become that like fast friend.
Yeah.
And she was like that. And I was like, it's weird how much we connected just as soon as we met. Because I hate everyone. Like I'm pretty much known for just not liking people in general and being a shut-in.
Where do you think that comes from?
Fuck, I don't know, man. Because when I was younger, I was not like that. I was all into going to like, punk rock shows and being the center of attention. And my art, once it kind of took off the way it did, I was like, oh, this is a lot of people looking at me all of a sudden.
Right.
And then I think that's what shut me down and was like, man. I tried to keep people at a distance. And
so the more eyes that got on you, the more you were just like, I don't know if I want these.
Yeah, I think I spent most of my life like trying to get people to pay attention. And then when they started to pay attention, I'm like, oh, well, quit looking at me.
Yeah. Don't do that.
You're making me uncomfortable now. And so then when I met her and we just connected, she was like, you want to do this? And I was like, all right. I was like, but we don't get to talk to each other. Like, don't fucking text me. Don't call me. We literally play catch up on the podcast.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like we just have a good time doing it. She gets high as hell the entire time. I don't do any drugs whatsoever.
Right. You can hear in your podcast the Bic lighter going constantly. I'm like,
the Bic lighter and her stirring. She drinks this weird shit in a cup that she's constantly stirring, and it's a wreck.
Well, dude, I discovered you from the art walk, the chart walk.
Yeah,
the art walk behind in the alleyway behind. In Avondale, West Ashley.
Yeah, Artist Alley.
Yeah, and I saw this pair of eyes. I parked my car in front of this pair of eyes, and I'm like, and I took a picture of it and posted it, and I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
And one of my friends was like, oh, that's Patrick, and whatever. And then that's it. I was like, all right, let me go follow him and find out what's going on. And then one day you posted this painting of Jem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, here we go. One of my favorite tattoo artists. I was secretly. This sounds weird, but I think you'll understand. I was kind of happy when he moved away because he kept posting like, a drawing, like a tattoo design.
Yeah,
and then I'd see it and I'd be like, when can I come in?
Yeah.
When can I come in?
Yeah.
When can I come in? After a while, I was like, all right, I've got to, you know, and then he moved away. I was like, okay, I got to not have that relationship with another tattoo artist again because it's dangerous. In a good way.
It gets that way with some of my collectors. They want every piece that goes up, or they'll have to pick and choose. They'll go, oh, shit, I just bought one last month. Like, my wife's going to kill me. Like, let me wait till next month and then I'll buy another piece.
Well,
and you get people that just collect
it's
your art.
It's definitely, it's so much better than getting your art from, like, I don't know, at home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, because all that stuff looks exactly the same.
Yeah. Mass produced kind of generic. This is what art should be.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I saw the gem thing, and I was telling you when you were coming in, I'm like, when I was a kid, I loved that show.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was, a rock and roll, like, superhero, basically, like, and of course the Misfits were just like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
Somebody knew something going on here. But they had this contest when I was a kid for the local, I think it was like in New York, it was maybe Channel 9 or something like that. Like just like a local, then they would become like WPIX or so. They become like a kind of a local but national chain type thing, whatever. It wasn't one of the big networks.
Yeah.
Put it that way. And they had a contest, and the contest was you could either win, it was either a radio control car or a set of gem dolls.
I remember those dolls. Yeah.
And I called up, they had a call-in contest, and I called up and I won.
Oh, shit.
But it gave me a number to call, and I screwed up writing down the number.
Oh, no.
Because it was a recording saying, like, you are the X amount, call this number to claim your prize.
Yeah.
And I wrote down the wrong number. And I never got the prize.
Damn.
But the whole time I'm sitting there going, like, I loved radio control cars too.
Yeah.
I loved radio control cars. And I was like, but then I don't have to ask. I could just pretend that, like, oh, I won this prize and it was these dolls.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I was going to ask you. Were you worried about having to explain the fact that you won dolls? Or I
thought it was like this cool out.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like, all right, I live with my grandparents. All right, Grandma and Grandpa, look what I won. Some dolls.
See, I had the out when I was little because my sister's only a year younger than me. So, like, while I was busy with He-Man, I would always take some of her Barbies as well. And I'm like, well, you know, this is who He-Man's saving. That was my out during all of that was, you know.
Well, because the Barbie dolls were pretty good. She had the best accessories, the cars, and like, but they were giant cars. And
I wanted my He-Mans to be that size. Oh, yeah. I was like, damn it, why do you guys get the big ones?
Well, they had the original G.I. Joe, but I'm too young. I'm believe it or not, I'm too young for that.
See, so am I. Like, I was born in 1980, so by the time I got to all that, it was He-Man was it.
Yeah, He-Man, and then I remember the Thundercats.
Yeah.
When they came out with those figures, the action figures actually came out before the TV show.
Same with He-Man.
Yeah. And so I remember, like, seeing, there was this store it was called Big D, Big Discount. It was like a walking distance place that had a huge toy section.
Yeah.
So I would go in there with, like, no money and just stare at the toys.
Yeah.
And they had that little ring that you could put in the back. And it had a battery in it.
Yeah,
and it would light up their eyes.
Yeah.
And, like, the Mum-Ra thing gave me nightmares. I was like, that's so scary. I need to have it. Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing with He-Man. The show was only created to sell the toys.
Yeah.
It was just basically a 30-minute commercial for kids. It got me. Fuck.
Have you ever tried to watch some of those the original cartoons, like the original He-Mans, original Thundercats?
Well,
they're awful.
I tried to introduce my kids to them because I was like, God damn it, I will get you into this. Like, this is Dad's love. I love all things, 80s cartoons is my jam. And I was, dead set on getting both of them into it. No.
They
thought that was the lamest thing because they were raised on Pixar.
Right.
which is great. It has good writing and music, and the animation's beautiful. And then here I am trying to show them, the
and
wuzzles. You know what I mean? They didn't give a shit.
And it's kind of like the animation's so bad.
Yeah.
Lots of like just a frozen frame and like a noise, and it looks like someone's screaming or something. Like just bad backgrounds that were
that, and like even different from Ninja Turtles. Like with He-Man never hit anyone with a sword. You never saw him like whack anyone. You know what I mean? He would pick like Beastman up and like throw him across a world, but he would land in a puddle. You know what I mean? Like no one ever really got hurt on the show.
There was something about the 80s with violence that didn't have any consequences, because A-Team, no one could ever hit anyone with a bullet.
No.
G.I. Joe, lasers everywhere.
Yeah. No one ever died in any of that shit. No.
They could, and if they got into if a plane crashed or a car crashed, they just got right out.
Yeah. It was always, scrutinized.
Yeah.
So closely. So it was like anything with too much violence would just not get shown to kids back then.
It's very funny.
Now my kids see all that shit. It's graphic.
Well, I wonder if it's good or bad. I don't know, because in video games, it's just it is so graphic that it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I've never felt like it's affected my son, who loves video games. I don't think I don't think he's got a violent bone in his body.
No, neither of mine do. And I have a what I call an indoor kid and an outdoor kid. I have one that runs track, and the other one's video games nonstop. But they're not affected by any of it. So I let them play whatever.
Yeah.
Like eventually I just gave up. I was like, yeah, you can play whatever.
When you were the kid, what were you? Were you kind of?
Oh, I was an indoor kid.
You were an indoor kid?
Who was forced to be an outdoor kid. Oh. I wanted to be indoors. My parents were like, no, you've sat in front of the Nintendo for an hour, so now you have to go outside for an hour, that kind of thing.
Yeah, my grandparents played me with the Nintendo. I played it, but they gave me, they wouldn't allow me to hook it up to the color TV.
Oh, wow.
I had a black and white TV, a 13-inch black and white TV.
Yeah.
So I never knew the difference between, like in Legend of Zelda, the different colored rupees. It was either green or red. I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
Mario and Luigi were the same color.
Yes, they're all the same. Yep. Yeah, playing. I was an expert at like the original Game Boy, because I was like, I got that monochrome shit down. So, all right, you grew up in what? Where'd you grow up? Alabama?
Originally Alabama. Yeah.
Man, what was that like?
Really good, but really bad. It looking back on it, I had the best childhood.
That's
but
awesome.
At the time, it was like, I don't want to be here. And so by the time I hit puberty, it was like I was seeing things on MTV, and I'm like, okay, my world doesn't look anything like this. Like, I need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So the moment I turned, I think 18 or 19, I was like, peace. Nope.
Yeah.
And I just started traveling just to get something else in my system besides Alabama. But now I love it. Like, I love going back home to visit, and there's just still not shit to do there. But
yeah, what was the scene like? Like,
there was no scene.
How did you discover like music, punk rock, all that kind of stuff?
Randomly, a kid on the bus who was probably 2 or 3 years older than me. We were on our way to. I was in chorus, so we're on our way to chorus, and he hands me a tape of music that he had recorded or whatever, and it had the Ramones on it. And it had the Sex Pistols on it. And it had like the very first Green Day album was on there. Like just all these bits and pieces of stuff. And I played that tape nonstop. Like that was all I wanted to listen to. That's all I cared about. And so it became like, by the time my senior year came around, because I went to a very small high school, people would say, well, there's certain classifications in this school. You're either, a preppy, a redneck, or you're Patrick. And those are the options. Because there were no kids. Like I had a green mohawk, and, I thought I was Mr. Punk Rock Kid, and there was none of that in Alabama.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did the kids accept you for that, or was it
early on? No. So like my 10th, 11th grade year, like, I was the outcast. I was the one that everybody, they didn't get it, And then I remember there was a really popular girl in my school. All of a sudden she came to school one day with a Rage Against the Machine shirt on that was tucked into her Lee jeans. And I was like, oh shit, it's happening. Like,
yeah,
they're starting to find it here in Alabama, that there is something other than country music, or, Yeah. And then all of a sudden I was getting invited to all the parties and became Mr. Popular because I was ahead of the curve with that stuff. So.
Right. Because all that music started to become the mainstream in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, and, even my kids asked me, they were like, well, were you picked on in school? Were you bullied or whatever? And I was like, well, yeah, but then no. Like, I went from being the least popular to the most popular. Like, it was between me and one other guy for prom king by the time I graduated high school.
Right.
Where in ninth grade, no one would give me the damn time of day.
Because they were just like, oh, he was onto this before we were.
Yeah, he's just that weird kid that doodles in his notebook all the time.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So you traveled around after you got to the age where you could leave the home.
Yeah, get the hell out.
And you traveled around. Somehow you found yourself in Charleston.
Yeah, a company I worked for called Genesco had moved me here. They own all the Johnson and Murphy and Hat World and Lids and Journeys and Underground Station. They owned all these like crazy companies, and so I worked for the main company, and I got to travel all over, just
That's awesome.
Basically running their stores or firing people. I did a lot of firing. I got the call to come to Charleston because Northwoods Mall, the assistant manager was selling cocaine out of the store. And they said, hey, we need you to go up there and take care of it. And I was like, how the hell do you want me to take care of it? They're like, just fire everybody. So I had to come to Charleston, South Carolina.
Wow.
Fire the entire staff, work open to close until I got it restaffed. And
I think I figured out why you don't like people as much anymore.
Dude, people suck, man.
You had to put up that you have to have a certain bulldog skin to
make that your job. Yeah.
Yeah. To be able to do that.
I walked into one of the stores and it was in Auburn, Alabama. And I was there to fire the girl. And as soon as she saw me, she recognized me from one of the meetings or whatever. And she threw her keys at me and then walked out. I think she called me a son of a bitch or something and walked out. And I was like, all right, well, that's cool.
Did you show up like in a Grim Reaper outfit?
Dude, but still, I was this punk rock kid. Like I had pink hair, you know what I mean? And like a spiked, jacket and like bondage pants. So you know what I mean?
She saw you coming in.
And she knew exactly who I was.
Dude, that's rough.
She knew what I was there for.
That's rough. So these days, though, you're still working with that company?
No. I left them forever ago. That's a shitty job to have. I would imagine that would take a toll. Yeah. Well, I came to Charleston to do that job, fire that guy or whatever. Met my first wife in the mall. And so when she got pregnant, I've been here ever since. I'm not leaving my babies, so no matter what happens, I'll always be here.
There's something about this area, though, that it's very difficult to leave. Once you get here, it's hard to explain.
I think they say that about all hometowns because, like, my hometown, people said they're like, they were dying to get out, and then they all end up coming back. I think I'm one of the few people that left and have stayed gone.
Right.
Like, I don't have any intentions on going back. I do love to visit, but I'm not moving back there. Like,
I have like visions of moving to other parts. Like I've always wanted to live in, say, Flagstaff or someplace like that where just a totally different environment, Pacific North.
But see, I don't think I'd want to stay there though.
Right. But that's the thing. I don't know if any place is going to have the same kind of staying power as this. I came from New York. So coming from New York to anywhere has a potential.
Culture shock.
It has a potential to be elected. You're coming from one of the, the biggest cities in the world. Mm-hmm. Anywhere else, it's going to be such an adjustment. But there's something about every once in a while, I'll be driving down the road. Saturday morning, I had to run. Well, I didn't have to. I chose to run a race down in Seabrook, and I had to wake up before the sun and drive down there and just driving through Johns Island and going through the marshland and watching the sunrise over there. Yeah. You just remember, you're like, this is an amazing place.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful place. Even if you're not into landscapes and that kind of stuff, living in it is definitely inspiring, regardless of whatever kind of art you're into. Yeah. There's something about that.
Well, and I've gotten lucky in the sense that I get to do a lot of traveling for work. Well,
that's cool.
Prior to, the shutdown or whatever. So that I get to visit all these places. Right. Like I've done shows in, Texas and wherever, but like, I don't think I want to leave Charleston. Charleston has been really good to me.
Yeah.
Like my career has been great here and I don't see a reason to leave it. Like I'm lucky, you know what I mean? That
when things are normal, our airport is pretty serviceable too.
Yeah.
It's quick and easy in, easy out.
It is.
It's pretty, you can pretty much get anywhere.
Yep.
I'm like,
The worst airport I've ever been in is Atlanta. That is
it's
the
just so big.
most soul-sucking airport ever.
Yeah.
It's
It's
horrible.
so big, and when you go like to Europe and you see their airports, and you're like, "What are we doing?
Yeah.
Why can't we get our shit together?"
Yeah.
Well, because JFK is a terrible. Like all the New
Yeah.
York airports are just serviceable.
Yeah.
They're not places you want to be stuck in for a long period of time.
No.
Yeah,
No,
but
I had a layover in Atlanta of all places for like 6.5 hours going to
Mhm.
Vegas, and I'm like, I could not have gotten stuck in a worse airport than Atlanta airport. It is horrible.
Yeah, it's not. And I love Atlanta too. Just Atlanta as a
Mhm.
city, but yeah.
But yet again, I don't want to live there. I love it. I love to visit.
Yeah,
Don't want to stay
I
there.
think I could live there, but I don't like. Again, I don't know how long.
I lived there for a little while, and that was enough to let me know that I didn't want to stay
Yeah.
there.
They have a cool punk rock scene.
They have a great. Well, that's where I got my
Yeah.
ass kicked was in Atlanta clubs. You know what I mean? Like
Oh.
getting that whole punk rock thing. We were at the Masquerade every weekend, and like I lived in Columbus, Georgia, which was only like 45 minutes from Atlanta. So every weekend, that was all we did was stay in Atlanta.
Yeah, I have an affinity for that place because it's so different than any other
Yeah.
city in the South.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It doesn't belong in the South.
Yeah.
At all.
And I love that it exists. I
Mhm.
love that it's just like and not to get political, but the fact that like Georgia,
Hey,
Went
man, went
blue.
blue. Yeah.
like that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
I was messing with a buddy of mine because he's a huge Georgia fan. So, like,
Mhm.
he likes the Georgia Bulldogs. He likes the Atlanta Falcons. Like,
Yeah.
they always get so close every time. And so I was like, hey, you guys got something right. Like, you won one thing.
Yeah, we'll see what we're saying in come January. See if we're still happy about Georgia. It could go either way.
Yeah, that might change too.
It could go either way. But man, so all right, so you came to Charleston,
Mhm.
fell in love
Yeah.
with a girl.
Yeah, got her pregnant. We'll call it love.
You fell in love with the idea of a girl.
Yes, that I did. And having kids. Like, I love being a dad. Like, that's my favorite thing in the world is being
Heck
a dad.
yeah.
I have a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, and like, they're my whole world.
That's so awesome.
They're amazing.
And that must say a lot about. So you have shared custody with them,
Pretty much. My
Yeah.
my ex-wife is actually my best friend. Like,
Oh, that's great.
literally, like, we do everything together, and we do it as a family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so even if she's dating someone or I'm dating someone, we bring them into it. Like, she meets everyone that I date. I meet
Yeah,
everyone
because
that
they're going
she
to be around
dates.
her kids too.
Yeah, exactly. So we're really, really close. Like, she comes to Gay Pride with me every year. Like, we bring the kids and we'll march in the parade and we go to the festival, and like, she loves to go to drag shows with me, and like, we have a blast.
That's
like,
pretty awesome.
I got lucky in that sense because not a lot of people are, have an ex that's that cool.
Well,
You know,
definitely, especially when there's kids involved. Like seeing a couple go through that and not be adult about it.
yeah, for sure.
That's rough. All right, so let's talk about your artwork.
Okay.
Because I believe I heard through your podcast
Mhm.
that creating artwork wasn't your first. Like that was something you kind of came to you developed later on in life.
Well, I'd always loved drawing.
Mhm.
That was my thing, was drawing. It was comic books or whatever was on TV, any cartoon. And when I was in high school, I remember we didn't have art class. So
Right.
I've never had an art class a day in my life. Never had nothing. And she said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to work on cartoons. I wanted to do the cells because everything was done by hand,
Mhm.
and they were hand painted. And I knew that I wanted to do that. I was used to the repetition from drawing the same comic book panels over and over and over that I would be able to paint those, and it takes so many to do a cartoon. I thought that's my job. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to make cartoons. And by the time I graduated high school, everything had went digital. I think the first Toy Story movie had come out, and
And you're like,
shit. Yeah. And then it was like, well, now what do you want to do? I was like, I guess I'll not do that.
Yeah.
So, I had random jobs here and there, but then, I was always drawing, always painting,
Wow.
that never stopped. And then I went through a really bad breakup, and that really is what changed my art. I went from doing, the things that people were telling me to do, like they were saying, well, you live in Charleston, so you need to paint the pineapple fountain, and you need to do Rainbow Row, and you need to do all of these things, and
that have been done a million
times.
before.
Yeah. And so, I went from not being able to sell my art or doing whatever somebody asked me to do, painting pet portraits or whatever, to, when that breakup happened, I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to paint what I want to paint. Yeah. And I did. And it took off. And I was like, okay, cool. Now I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And there's something really cool about somebody who you could tell you have a hyper focus on detail. It's a lot of close up stuff. You're not doing landscapes. Your portraits are
portraits.
They're really up close, or sometimes isolated. I think I kind of think of you as your signature as being
the eyes. Yeah.
Just close ups of eyes, multicolors.
Yep.
Just and that's all. It's all the discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah,
is through the eyes, and it's
like that with people. You know what I mean? You can tell a lot from someone's eyes. And the first set of eyes that I ever painted, that what kind of got me recognized was the ex-girlfriend. When we broke up, she had the most beautiful eyes I'd ever seen, and I was like, I'm gonna paint those damn eyes. And literally, it just stuck, and it connected with people. So all of a sudden, I'm getting people that are going, "Hey, can I buy those eyes?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll make more of them." So it became a thing where I was constantly painting this woman's eyes. And it's funny because I talked to her now and she was like, how many times have you painted me? And I was like, probably 1,000 times I've painted your face. Yeah, I've got it memorized. I can do it with my eyes closed. I know every inch of that woman's face.
Wow.
She became my muse, out of a heartbreak. You know what I mean?
That's pretty intense.
It was
that somebody who broke your heart
became the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Because without that happening, I'd still be painting Rainbow Row and cat and dogs.
The musician Ben Folds?
Oh yeah, dude. That's funny that you mentioned that. I actually got commissioned today to do a Ben Folds painting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's weird.
Well, one of the saddest thing I could think of for any musician is for their hit song to be a fucking gut wrenching.
Yeah, Brick.
Brick is
one of my favorite songs.
When I actually, because I'm a person who will listen to music and not absorb the words all the time. Yeah. In other words, I could sing along to a song and not really take it in. And when I do, if I sit and listen to that song.
Well, when you know what it's about, it's like, oh, shit.
And I just listen to the lyrics as he's singing them. And it just makes you want to cry every time. It's painful.
Yeah.
And to think of oh, that's the song that every night of your career you have to get up in front of thousands of people and pour your heart out.
Well, that's the thing.
Just put a knife in your gut every night.
This girl has been on, magazine covers. She's been on, you know what I mean? Like all these
walls.
Things, the mural in Artist Alley, the male portrait that I did is me. The female portrait I did is her. And so she's been in all these things, and it's like this constant reminder, not in a negative way. Like I said, I probably owe her, some money.
Hopefully she doesn't come looking for it.
Yeah, I know, right? But she's been in all these things, and it's funny because I asked her, I said, well, how do you feel about it? And she always makes the same sarcastic thing. She's like, looks nothing like me. Which I love. That she doesn't think it does.
Man.
Yeah. But that's what got me recognized by Jack Bender and Stephen King and getting into the movie industry was painting her.
All right. So I want to hear about this story because that's such an interesting.
That's a whole podcast on its own, man.
You got noticed while they're filming here, they noticed your artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, you're on set, consulting.
Yeah. That's kind of how it happened.
That's kind of like the A to Z.
Well, yeah.
Of it.
It was you know Molly Howie?
I don't.
You don't? Okay. Sweetest girl ever. I love her to death. We were kind of acquaintances, not really friends. We were friends of friends kind of thing. I didn't know what she did for a living. She was a set painter for, Army Wives and all these great shows that are filmed here in Charleston. I didn't know that. But I did that first painting of my ex. Mm-hmm. And Molly reached out to me on Instagram and she said, I've been following you doing that painting. Is it done? And I said, yeah, I think it's done. And she's like, can I buy it? I was like, sure, you can buy it. She's like, well, let me call you. What's your phone number? So I give her my phone number. She calls me. She was on her lunch break. She said, how much do you want? Whatever. And I was like, I don't know. It's kind of a personal painting. I was like, what do you want to pay for it? Like, I don't know what to,
That
I don't
is
know what,
the
you know,
hardest question to answer.
it's easy now.
Right.
But back then, when I was lucky to sell a $50 painting, you know, because I was struggling at the time to sell art.
Yeah.
I would take what anybody would give me. And, you know, we came up with a price and she said, okay. She says, well, I'll take it. And I said, cool. And about, I'd say an hour later, I get a call and it was from the art director for Mr. Mercedes, the Stephen King show. And he said, hey, did you sell a painting to Molly Howie? And I said, yeah. I did.
And you're like,
I
should
did.
I have not have?
Yeah. And he goes, he tells me who he is. And he's like, my name is Matt. And I'm blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I thought he was full of shit. Like, I did not know that was Molly's job.
Right.
That she was on a lunch break from working on a television show. And he said, would you be interested in doing some large pieces for the show that we're working on called Mr. Mercedes? And I said, sure, man, whatever. So they commissioned me to do 6 of them, and they needed to be big. So I think the minimum was like a 40 by 40 that I did. And he said, do them in your style. And I was like, well, shit, my style I just learned yesterday. Like, I literally, you know what I mean? It was the first piece that I had done in that style that they were in love with. And I'm like, oh shit, now I have a style. Like, before it was painting whatever.
Now you're looking at the painting and go like, what is my style?
What is my, I guess a lot of color, you know? And so I did. And so I did 6 pieces for them. And they rented them. And then they said, well, can you do 6 more? And I was like, okay. And the money is ridiculous for a TV show. I didn't realize how much money they pay for just little things.
They want the rights so that you don't come back and be like, you used my likeness.
Exactly. So I said, okay, sure, I'll do 6 more. And I was like, is there any direction you want me to go with it? And the director, Jack Bender, who's done Lost, Game of Thrones, Under the Dome, like, he's this amazing director.
I forgot about that show.
Oh, dude, great show, man. He is actually an artist as well. He loves to paint. And he was like, he loves your stuff. And I was like, I love his stuff. Like, holy shit. Like, this is going to work out great, you know? And they said, well, we want one of the portraits to be of him. We want him to have a cameo in the show, but it's his portrait. I was like, okay, no pressure. No pressure here, you know? Meanwhile, the painting I sold Molly was like a 11 by 14. Go from that to a 40 by 40 or a 52 by 52. And all of a sudden, in my style, as they're calling it, was daunting. So I did the Jack Bender portrait. And then the guy calls me and he's like, dude, we love it. He was like, okay, the next one we want to be Stephen King's cameo in the show. Can you do a Stephen King one in your style?
Wow.
And I'm like, I will do whatever Stephen King wants. And they said, and we want to gift it to him after the show is over. So, like, I did this giant Stephen King. I write him a love letter on the back. I'm like, your books changed my life as a child. You know what I mean?
What did you use as a source for that?
His face. I mean,
like, where did you just find a picture of him that you like, a headshot or something like that? Or
I think it was like one of his, I think it was his Twitter cover photo or whatever. I just looked at that and was like, all right, we'll do it. But, you know, I did it in my style with all the color and and nonsense. And they loved it. And I wrote a long love letter to him on the back and they gifted it to him. And then, so that happened, which was, you know, game changing as far as like my art career. Like, it went from no one knows who I am to now everyone knows who I am. I was getting interviewed for magazines and newspapers and all this shit. And so then season 2 is coming about and I get a call. It was from the art director from season 1. And he goes, hey, man, he's like, we're not bringing any artists back but you this time. Can you do some art for us? So sure enough, yeah.
Wow.
And at this point they said, well, we don't want it to be your style. We have an idea in our mind. We need you to match it. Okay. So at this point,
now you're holy cow.
Well, there had been a year span between the 2 seasons, right? So I've had a year to work around what had become my style, you know, refined it, you know, gotten more into it. And now all of a sudden I'm having to do in what's in their mind. So I did a couple of like little sketch paintings and they said, no, that's not it. And they were like, think more Peter Max. And I was like, you know, the Yellow Submarine and stuff. Like, I was like, all right, man, cool, I'll do that. So I did another rendition. Okay, we'll take that one. but do it big. And so I had to do this really big painting for a neurologist office for season 2, all this stuff. So I finished season 2, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, because it's a lot of pressure when you're painting for these people because it has to be perfect.
And if they say something, I mean, if they send it back,
and it's soul crushing, you know what I mean? Like when your art gets sent back to you, like when I did a couple of the sketch paintings, they were like, no, that's not even close to what we were thinking. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to get fired. But finally we realized the style that they wanted. And so I went with that. And then season 3 is coming up. And at this point, like everyone knows my art because they've seen it everywhere, And I get a call, and it was from the art director, and he goes, I have a big one for you this year. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I want you to be the art advisor on set. And I said, for what? And they said, the main character is a painter. So we need her studio to look like your studio. So and I said, okay. Dude, they showed up with a truck and took everything out of my studio. Like literally every tube of paint.
Was your studio in your house?
Oh, yeah. They stripped it bare. Dude, my easel, they wanted my easel because my easel was covered in paint.
Yeah, it was already used.
It was used. They wanted that authentic feel to it. I'm freaking out because I'm like, I still have to work, guys. Like, I know that I'm doing this show for you. And they were like, no, you don't. Like, I didn't realize what I was taking on was to be not only setting up the set, which is its own paycheck. You know what I mean? Like, you go in for a day and you're literally building a fake studio, an art studio, to look like my studio. So I do that. They give me my own assistant, which is the funniest thing ever. Because I was like, because she goes, what do you want me to work on? And I was like, can you get me a cup of coffee? Like, that's literally what I used her for. And I think she got paid for a full day just to go get me a cup of Starbucks.
That's awesome.
But I said, as I'm working on her, whatever, they said, well, you need to do all the sketches because this woman's going to have sketches all around her where she's been working on artwork her whole life. So you got to do all the sketches.
Cow.
So I did 50 sketches for the character. And then I had to do all of her paintings, which were painting from still life. So
she's doing realism
no.
as a style or no?
Very like abstract realism,
okay,
which is also not something I really do.
Right.
Yet again, not to be in my style.
Yeah.
What had been defined as my style. I had to do what they were thinking, which was very loose, very, different. Because, like you said, I'm very technical with my line work and my color. And it has to be
lines.
A certain way or I'm not happy with it. And all of a sudden I'm having to paint very loose and sloppy and paint with my left hand instead of my right hand, And so we developed her style. I had to do 30 paintings for this show and then 50 sketches. And then I had to be on set to teach her how to hold the paintbrush as an artist would. And it turned out to be Kate Mulgrew was the main character. Do you know Kate Mulgrew? Have you watched Orange is the New Black?
Yes.
Okay. You remember Red from The Kitchen?
Yeah.
That's Kate Mulgrew. Or Captain Janeway from Star Trek.
Okay. Yeah.
My favorite captain of all captains is Captain Janeway. And so like she walks on set and I'm like, son of a bitch. So now I have to work with her. Like I get to teach her how to hold a paint. Like it was great, spending every day on set with her and so every time you see the paintbrush move on camera, it's me doing it. They just take my hand out of the shot. But
that's awesome.
It was a blast, man. It was a blast.
What was all right? So through this whole process, not many artists get an opportunity, professionally, to be forced to change their style.
No.
It's like something you might do in school. You might be told, but even then, it's not like you're not expected to copy this painting style. You're told what the elements are and then do your version of it from what you've learned.
See, I think that's where I was key in the sense that I've never had an art class.
Right.
So for me, learning how to paint and how to draw was learning everyone's styles, emulating everything I saw. If I wanted it to look a certain way, I would sit there and practice and practice and practice and screw it up as much as possible and then until I can get it right.
Right.
So over time, I've learned to do, if they want it to look like Monet, I can make it look like Monet. If they want it to look like Andy Warhol, it'll look like Andy Warhol. Yes, I have my own style, but when it comes to these TV shows and stuff, they have their own mindset on things, and I just try to match what they're thinking.
So now that you have proven yourself to have that ability,
Yeah.
How do you market that to people besides
it's-
like, hey, look at my work here? But like,
it's weird. It's like two parts. It's once, you have the fine art side of things where, I can go and do an art show that is in my style, like, and I'll usually create a theme. Like when me and Tim Showers did Neopop. It was, hey, we're going to make this 80s base. Let's go. And I love painting with loud color. That's like my jam. So let's do 80s characters. So we made the whole show an 80s, art show. And then you have the other side of it, which is the movie industry and TV and all. And that seems to be, and I found this out by doing it, was once you're in, you're in. Everyone has your phone number.
Right.
So now I'll get a call.
Crews, when they know somebody's reliable.
Yeah. If they know that you can do the work exactly what they're thinking in their head, you know what I mean? Or you'll do it until you do get that right, you'll get the phone calls. So it goes from that to, hey, we've got an idea for the new Purge movie, or, a tampon commercial, or we want to fill the poppies in the background. Whatever they ask for, I painted.
That's so cool, man.
It's fun.
It's just
It's a lot of fun because it's cheaper for them to pay me to paint something that looks like Andy Warhol than it is to pay for the licenses of Andy Warhol.
Yeah, I had some friends up in New York who sound engineers that worked at Sound One, which was a recording studio in New York that did all of the ADR work. Well, that whole industry, because of what we're doing right now, with the ability of us to do this now, that industry went to hell in a hand. They just, so he had to shift. And one of the things he was doing was licensing art for movie productions.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wait, what?
Okay. I'll tell you a crazy story that I probably shouldn't be telling, but I'll try not to give too many details. I got asked to work on a show where a scene had been already filmed, and they did not get it through approval, the licensing approval for two of the pieces that were like barely seen.
Right.
And they were still filming in this location, but they didn't want to have to go back and reshoot all of that stuff. So I get the call, hey, these two pieces, we need you to do them, but change just enough to where we can get it through licensing. And so we switched. I did my version of it, just barely changing it. So if you pay close attention to the TV show, you can see where it changes.
That nobody would.
No one would ever notice it. I look for it, and it's hard to find. You know what I mean? So, but I can technically see where I'm like, oh yeah, I did change that one little thing.
Yeah.
But I think the artist that had originally painted them had passed away, and they couldn't get anybody from the estate to give the approval or something.
And they didn't want them to come back and bite them in the ass.
Yeah, and the money that it costs to reshoot a day, you're talking
just for something that's in the background.
Huge amount of money. Yeah,
it's an odd thing,
which is a good bargaining chip for me, because then I'm like, well, I know how much that's going to cost you, so I know how much I'm going to charge you.
Well, what's weird too is, all right, let's say you do kind of not an exact copy, but you're pretty much copying the painting that exists. Yeah. As far as I know, that's perfectly legal.
It is legal, yeah.
And
we do. I do it literally every day for people.
If you do the same thing with music, no.
Yeah.
They'll yank it.
Well, it's like, somebody asked me, they were like, well, if that's your style, because I've now gotten to the point, and it's super weird to me, but I've seen other artists emulating me.
Yeah.
Which is weird. That freaks me the hell out, because I'm like, holy shit. Like, other people have seen my work, and now they want to make my work. And, people are like, do you get offended by that, or do you try to sue them? I'm like, no, that's flattering. Like, that's, to me, that's an honor.
And you had something that you saw in your past, that little pieces of things that came together and made you what you are. And a lot of artists will do that.
And they're searching for that.
And musicians, just any kind of artist, will emulate until they find their voice.
Well,
and they'll just do this something that they've seen before because they like it.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of the pop art type stuff is interesting, because you'll see the ones that will do exactly the way it was originally presented. They'll do a carbon copy of Batman. Like, it looks just like every Batman you've ever seen.
Yeah, to me that's so boring.
And then you'll see someone like Proton Factories do it it's in a total his own style.
His style.
And you're like, okay, see, now that I can get behind, because now this is a guy doing something he loves, doing pop art, but he's doing it as Proton Factories. You're doing yours is Patrick.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, it's when you get to that point where, like with Proton, you can look at it from across the room and know exactly who did that painting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when people see my stuff now, they go, I know who did that. You know what I mean? And I love that. I love that people are recognizing my style. The bad thing about it is being able to be a chameleon for like movies and TV and whatever. Sometimes I have to do commission work or whatever that doesn't look like my style.
But that's so cool that you can.
So when you watch season 3 of Mr. Mercedes, everyone was like, I don't really care for the artwork. And I'm like, it's not my style. I did what I was asked to do. It was how this woman would have painted it. This 50-something-year-old woman that lives in a trailer park. This is how she would have done it, not how Patrick does it.
So you're basically art acting.
Pretty much.
Does that even exist? Who knew that was a genre?
I didn't know that it was going to be a job. I had no idea. Like when people are like, well, how did you get started? I'm like, I
think the closest thing I could think of is like, well, I
tell people it's dumb luck. I'm like, man, you can have all the skill in the world, but if the right person doesn't see it, it will get you nowhere. Like, I know phenomenal artists. There's a guy in Mount Pleasant. He has a following on Instagram of maybe 400 people. Mm-hmm. He's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. No one knows who the hell he is. And I'm like, dude, I will drag you kicking and screaming into the art world. Like, I'm going to do an art show with you. I want people to see what you're doing. You know, like, you're amazing.
Well, I mean, the most talented creators, this is not a rule, but there's the most talented creators that you'll never know because they just don't have the skill to get themselves out there. Yeah. They don't know how to market themselves.
And that's something I've had to learn. But like I said, with the TV and stuff, it's once you're in, you're in. And when a TV show or movie is done, everybody goes different ways. So maybe the art director who worked with me on this show is on a new movie, and then the sound guy, and then the lighting and the camera guy, and all these different people are in different places hearing, hey, well, we need someone who can create this painting. And then I get the phone call, no matter what the project is.
Yeah.
As soon as filming starts.
I mean,
the filming world.
I'm watching, there's so many, I've watched more TV in the last like 8 months or so than I have in probably my whole life. Yeah. And right now, Fargo is like the big one that we're watching.
I love Fargo. I've only made it through the 2nd season, but I love it.
So, okay, this season, spoiler alert, has a very, very, very I believe, I don't know this yet, I believe has a very strong connection to season 2. And it's the only connection I can find so far between this season and any other Fargo. Because it's like...
Really?
Yeah, it's like in the 50s, gangster, very...
well, Castle Rock's like that too, in the sense that every season's different. But there's a connection there. Yeah. But that all goes to the world. Stephen King's like that with everything, though. Like anybody... It doesn't matter who the director is. They're going to tie it into that universe. You know what I mean? In some way. Yeah. The town's going to always be named Derry. You know what I mean? Like that stuff's always going to be there.
So we're watching it last night. And it's so well done. Fargo is just one of those shows, and it's top
it's
writing,
hilarious.
Acting, everything is great.
It's one of the shows that makes me actually laugh. And I know I'm probably not supposed to, but it's so quirky. Damn funny. Like,
it's quirky.
I love it.
This one has a very different tone than all of them. This one stands out on a whole different level. Yeah, it's just so different, but it still has a little bit of the quirkiness. There's still a little of the bumbling kind of like, egotistical, evil people. Yeah, and that element is still there, but it's just not as in your face. But I said to my wife after it was over, I'm like, hopefully by the time this whole pandemic thing kind of subsides and nightlife comes back, we're going to really need it because they're going to run out of shows like this. There's going to be nothing. The well is going to be so dry by the time next summer comes along.
And it's getting to that point because nothing's being filmed. Right. Like several projects that I was up for have been canceled, and you don't know when they're going to come back, if they even come back. Like season 3 of Mr. Mercedes was by far the most popular season. And they were talking about doing spinoffs with some of the main characters and things. And nothing. Right. Everything's been squashed.
Yeah. And so, like Mandalorian or something like that, where it's all green screen. Yeah. Like they can make those all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But, after a while, you kind of...
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The shows that are continuing to go are now incorporating COVID into it. So you see people with masks on, and I kind of dig that.
It's pretty interesting. Have you found a benefit with the mask thing to as somebody who's kind of somewhat introverted in a way out in public?
Well,
do you like the
I love
the
it.
superhero aspect of putting a mask on?
Not the putting on the mask, but of the staying the fuck away from me. You know what I mean? Like, I like the 6 foot rule. Like, I literally, I have now permission to tell people that are too close to me to back up.
Right.
Love that. Can't ask for, because before I'd have been an asshole to say that. Now it's, I'm just trying to protect everybody.
There's a sticker on the ground. Go to your sticker.
Yep.
Please.
You saw that line right there, right? Yeah. You're too close to me in the checkout line.
Yeah. I do like the mask thing, though. I'm one of the weird people that prefers the mask thing. I'm just I have a terrible poker face.
How do you feel about the people that are cashing in on it? Like the people that are like putting their artwork on masks.
I buy them. I buy them all.
You're into that?
No, I think it's going to be one of those things 20, 30 years from now.
That'll be a collector's.
That'll, like any band who has a mask, artists, I'll buy their, I will buy. I don't think it's cashing in. I think it's kind of like, hey, this is of the time. This is this weird thing that's going on right now. And hopefully we never have it again.
Yeah.
But I can show like my grandkids, like, hey, look at these things we had to do.
That's
this
true.
is what we do. And then I'll probably still use them when I go flying because.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because like of all the flying that I've done, Asian people have always worn masks in the airport. Right. Always. And I've never been anywhere. And I've always been like, that's weird. Why would you ever need that? Yeah. Now I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
You had it figured out. And the times that I've been really sick have been because I was on a damn airplane.
Every time I fly, I
always get sick.
Yeah.
Always.
And
I tend to get it when I go somewhere versus when I'm coming back. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I would rather have the mask on.
Well, I've had people ask me to paint the mask or to get some of my paintings printed on. And I have a firm no printing policy. I don't print. There's no prints of anything of mine. I've never printed. I'm not going to. Everything's a one-off. If you have one of my pieces, you have the only one of those.
Right.
And it's just my thing. Like I don't buy prints either. I only buy originals.
Right.
So, but I've had people ask me to put it on a mask, and I'm like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know if that makes me an asshole to do that, or
what if you do it as a screen print style?
Well, I thought about
now it's like a Shepard Fairey where his,
each one's
his
different.
Work is the screen print.
Yeah. Maybe I would, but I would give them away. Like I couldn't be charging for it. Like I would feel like I'm cashing in on something that's horrible,
Yeah, I don't.
I buy them.
Yeah.
Like I have a few from some of the local artists here in Charleston, but like I just can't bring myself to do it.
Whenever I have a Patch Whiskey one, and whenever I wear that one, I always get like people
love it, and they
recognize
it. Yeah, and he's another one of those people that are local that his stuff from across the street. You know what I mean? I love that.
Yeah, he's definitely got the neon monster market cornered.
Well, it's funny because I have several people. They're like, "Do you do the monsters?" And I'm like, "No, I'm the other guy that paints really bright colors." Like, because everything I do is really, really bright, very neon. But there's no monsters, just pictures of girls.
Yeah, no, I always if I see a band that has a mask, I just hate that when they're like not ready to go. And you're like, oh, you're going to ship it 6 weeks from now? Like, come on, man.
It's like, I'm trying to support you, man.
Trying to throw you some bones here. Trying to throw you some bones.
Yep. I've been doing it with anybody that's local, like the artist community, any of them that I can give some money to for something, you know what I mean, that are really struggling. Because there's a lot that rely on the comic circuit or, and so I'm trying to give them money. I'm like, paint me something, draw me something. I don't give a shit. Like, Let me give you some money for something.
No, I've been plugging Proton Factors. I'll bring him up again because he's doing his Christmas cards.
Yeah,
like $3. Come on.
Yeah.
If you can't PayPal that guy $3 to get like a nice little Christmas, Christmas card that you're not going to get from anyone else.
Yeah.
So just do it.
I'll do it, but I won't buy their like mass produced stuff. It can't be a print. Like I just can't do it.
I like
if
certain,
Proton, if he does something, a piece that's only that one, then I'll buy it. You know what I mean? I want that one.
There's some artists that I you know, if I had $15,000 to spend on an original, but there's some artists that I will buy anytime I can get an original that's in a, you know, a reasonable price range for myself. You know, I would love to be able to buy, you know, a giant oil painting from some artist. And most of the artists that I like, I probably could afford it. It's just a matter of, with Prince,
you can support many artists versus supporting one artist.
Right.
So I get
Prince, I feel like you're just kind of, you're helping them pay their bills. So I have tubes of Prince, like.
See, and I don't want to be in that boat, man.
It's like, very silly.
I can't do it.
I get lots of angry, what are you doing with these things, from my wife. Because like, they're not really going to go in our house. No, they don't, you know, I'll have something like that here, but you know, I've got 20 more of those from the same artist. You know. And whatnot.
But see, that's why I don't print anything, man. Like, I know anything I make is going to go on a wall. You know, it's not going to end up in a roll.
Well, that's
but I also charge a lot more for it. You know what I mean? But it's funny because Charleston people, like, when it's local, I'm so giving. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, hey, I got this amount of money. What can you do? I'm like, I will hook you the fuck up because you're local. I don't have to ship it. You let me do whatever I want.
You come pick it up. You don't have to interact with
me. I'm like, I have an assistant that will deliver it for you. Like, you know. So I'm much more giving when it comes to Charleston folks.
I hear you. I love the punk rock attitude that you bring to this whole thing.
Fuck yeah. Well, and because I know that I'm going to make the money on the back end, because the next movie that comes up, I'm going to rape them on it. But,
well,
because they've got the money to spend.
Let's not call it rape. You're going to get compensated properly.
Very, very properly.
You're going to get compensated properly for your hard work and your talent.
So if it's a local, I hook them up.
All right. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is your tattoo situation. You're working with a tattoo art. Do you do
I did
art?
Tattoo.
Or do you tattoo?
I
you
did
actual
do tattoo.
You're a tattooist.
I was,
Did you apprentice the whole thing?
Yeah, I did the whole thing. Yeah.
And you got out of it?
I had to. It became it was funny. I was working at a shop in Somerville, and a dear friend of mine was the shop manager, and she said, Patrick, you spend most of your days in here painting. And I said, I know. I said, I'd rather paint than I hated tattooing. I absolutely hate it. I loved creating the piece that someone had in their mind when they come in and said, hey, I want to do this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And me creating that piece was awesome when I drew it. Putting it on their skin didn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? It just wasn't satisfying. I didn't enjoy it.
It's not an art.
To me, it's tracing. You know what I mean? Like, and don't get me wrong,
it's a skill. It's not as much as an art form when you're doing creating the piece. Is art.
And to me, that was the fun part, you know, and I was doing it because it was fun. You know, like I was teaching painting on the side and then working at the tattoo shop, and I was spending most of my day truly just painting.
Really?
And, you know, I told her, I said, you know, and this is right when season 2 was coming up. I said, I've got to make a choice. And it's whether I put down the paintbrush or I put down the tattoo machine. And she said, if you put down that paintbrush, I will kick your ass. And I was like, okay. And so literally that day I told her, I said, all right, well, I'm going to quit. And I said, and there was a ton of tattoo artists in the shop and apprentices. And I said, you guys have at it. I opened up my room and let them take everything. Because I said, if I had it to fall back on, I might be tempted to do it.
Wow.
So all my machines, my pedals, my power supply, all my inks, needles, the whole works, I had everything stripped out of my room that day. Because it had to be one or the other, you know, like I couldn't keep up teaching painting, doing paintings, and then doing tattoos. It was just too much. You know, I was working, you know, 17, 18 hours a day and barely sleeping. I was like, I can't keep this up. One's got to go. And then when season 2 came about, that was the perfect opportunity. I'm like, okay, I've made it as an artist. Like, as far as, you know, Stephen King has one of my paintings. Like, I can't ask for more than that. You know what I mean? Like, that's it for me. Yeah. So for me, that was like, okay, let's do this. Let's go all in. And it's been just painting.
I feel like everything we've talked about tonight, I feel like you have almost like this successful recipe
Mm-hmm.
that you know what I'm saying? Like, tell me about something that you've tried and failed at.
Every my relationships. That's the main thing, has been relationships for me. Like,
what do you
I can't
think that's
because everyone wants to date an artist until they date an artist.
well,
It's like every
left alone.
every chick wants to fuck the lead singer until they realize that lead singer is fucking everyone else on tour. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's pitfalls to being in a relationship with an artist. I won't date an artist. I've dated tattoo artists. I've dated, painters. Never again. I refuse.
Really?
Yeah, because they are just fucked up as I am. You know what I mean? And also because, when I go to date someone, and I'll tell them on a first date, I'm saying, hey, I know that you like my art, but you don't understand how much time goes into this. So like 8 hours a day, I may look like I'm playing around on Instagram, but I'm working, or if I'm sitting at that easel all day, that's going to get really boring to you watching me paint literally 8 to 10 hours a day. I'm working on stuff. That's not fun for someone, as much as they think it is. When you're really there doing it, they're like, man, this is boring shit. Like,
yeah, that's
so that's the failure.
I remember
can't be in a normal fucking relationship.
I remember years ago talking to Patch Whiskey about his work ethic, and it wasn't an interview or anything. Just talked to him as a friend.
Yeah,
and him explaining like, he goes to his studio every day like a job, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Like he's got a very strict schedule,
and I don't have an off button when it comes to that. Like, this is weird, and this is something I told the ex that I ended up painting. I gave her a perfect analogy one day. And we were driving down the road, and there was all these trees. And I said, what do you see when you look at those trees? She said, green. And they're really pretty. And I see the blue sky behind it. And I said, okay. I said, well, this is what I see. I see triangles and cylinders and squares, and everything is broken down into a shape. And when I look at your face, I see the shapes that would create your face on a painting. Right. And you can't fucking shake it. Like, I'll look at a car that's really pretty and I break it down into shapes immediately. It's weird. And
no, I
you know what I mean?
And I see it like,
and you see it in my artwork. You see all the shapes,
yeah.
And that's what I do with people's face when I paint them. Is I just break it down into basic shapes, and
that's how.
But it never. You can't turn it off though. You know what I mean? Like, it's always there. I'm always thinking about painting. I'm always talking about painting. I'm always
right. And you dissect it.
Yeah.
So, have you dissected your approach to relationships, or do you think it's just too volatile as far as the other person? You can't really put that much pressure on them to be whatever you expect them to be.
Man. Yeah, I mean, I try to make up for it in other ways.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to spend 10 hours painting, but then I'm going to take you to the nicest place in town to eat. You know what I mean? I'll try to make up for my lack of time during the day, or, like, I'll paint till 4:00 in the morning. No one wants to sleep in the bed alone. You know what I mean?
You might need to date a real estate agent.
Yeah, they're always working.
They never stop. Then my biggest complaint about my wife in our relationship is her not ever setting a boundary between her and her clients.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't do anything without you like checking in on your phone or responding to somebody. And she's an amazingly good salesperson in that aspect. That's something I can't fathom to have the amount of dedication she has. But well, like maybe that's what you need, is somebody who's that dedicated to their job.
And they definitely have to have their own thing. You know what I mean? To be in a relationship with me, you have to really have your own. You have your own friends, have your own world outside of me. If all the attention's on me, you're going to get really bored.
Right.
I see beauty in everything. Like, I'll be literally walking down the street and I'll take my phone out and I'll be like, that's a pretty color green that I haven't seen before. And I'll need to get that picture of that color green because I want to use it in a painting, you know?
I'm always looking at light.
Yeah.
I'm looking at how light is reacting.
Yep.
And you notice it all the time. You see it. And it's, I mean, if you were to equate it to some sort of like insanity, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, you see shapes, you see colors, you see these things, you break them down.
I break them down to use them in my art.
Yeah.
You know what
and
I mean?
you're always seeing the world that way.
Yeah.
And for someone to understand that and to realize like there's this psychosis in your head where you're interpreting the world
differently
in a totally different way.
And I've dated people that completely get it. You know what I mean? Like my ex-boyfriend, he could read me from across the room. So like we did the new Neopop show and he was helping me with that show, and he could sense my anxiety levels start to spike when too many people crowded around me, and he would come in and take me out of the situation, be like, hey, so-and-so wants to talk to you over there next to the drinks. And he would take over and do this. You know what I mean? So it takes the right kind of person to work well with an artist. That's pretty amazing,
though, that you have found people in your life. That
And those are the people that are closest to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Kara, that does the podcast with me, she gets it. Like she completely understands how I am. Like, so she has everything set up to where when I walk in for the podcast, we start recording.
Right.
There is no hello other than like
we start
maybe
talking
a hug.
outside when you got here.
Yeah.
So I get that whole thing. Like when especially if it's someone I don't know that well.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, let's just get it on. Let's just start recording it in case it works, because I do want to. This whole podcast thing of getting to know people,
I love it.
It's been such a mental lifesaver during this time, and I understand why so many people have started a podcast during this time.
With Kara, I know, like she writes everything down. Like she has all the questions. I know you can't tell because she's stoned, but
she comes very loose.
She does, and she does really well with it. But everything is pre-thought out. Where I come in with no prep. I don't prep anything. It's all
you
off
come
the
with
cuff.
Ridiculous honesty.
Yeah, and
I shouldn't say ridiculous. I should just say it's just brutal honesty.
Very, and like it's funny because some people have listened. They're like, I did not know that about you, and I'm like, well, there you go. All the people that want to talk to me that I push away that don't. This is your chance to hear all those things. You know.
Do you still want to talk to me?
Yeah, I'm like, now that you know that.
No, I think that's fantastic. I think that you and her have an awesome chemistry. On that show,
she's rad. Like she's one of the coolest people. And it's just natural. You know, like she's all into like enlightenment and stuff, and I'm like dick and fart jokes. You know, like that's my bread and butter. Like that's. Because I love making Kara laugh because she has the best laugh ever. So like she'll start snorting when she laughs.
That's great.
Which makes me pick at her more.
Yeah, that's amazing, dude. That's amazing. All right, man. Well, so your perfect future. What are you working towards right now? If you want to share, you don't have to share. If you've got something that you're kind of working towards in your career, it doesn't even have to be a career. Just could be in life in general. But what's the trajectory that you're heading in?
I want to keep doing what I'm doing. I absolutely love my job. I have the best job in the world. Like I could not have scripted it better. You know
amazing.
What I mean?
That's such a cool. I did not expect to hear exactly what we talked about today. You know
how we got there.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't change a fucking thing. Like that's I love it. Like I want to keep doing what I'm doing, keep working for, all the great people in Charleston. Like I love painting for everybody here. Like today with the Ben Folds guy, he just randomly reached out and was like, hey, will you do a painting of Ben Folds? And I was like, you have no idea how much I would love to do a painting of Ben Folds. Like he's one of my favorite artists, and the fact that I'm getting those type of commissions,
Now you have to choose. Do you want bearded Ben Folds?
No.
Do you want young, childlike Ben Folds?
There's an image of him where he's got like a little bit of stubble, and like his glasses are on crooked, and his tie's like being blown back or whatever, and his hair's disheveled. That's the one.
There you go.
Yeah, because I get to make it fun. Yeah, but no, I would keep doing what I'm doing, and don't be a dick along the way. Like I try to be nice to everyone, even though I don't, like them. No, I'm fine, dude. Honestly, I'm fine with it.
I think you have I think I could be wrong, but I think your perception of the way you come across to people is a lot. You're hard on yourself. I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want to talk to people. It's not that I don't. It's just when there's a huge crowd of people, my anxiety can't handle it. My brain is doing too many goddamn things to focus on that many people. Like going to the market downtown is the worst experience of my life. Having to walk through that hallway where you've got 1 million people on I can't handle it. Like my anxiety is like, nope, let's get the fuck out of here. Like I will dip. I've left family. I've left friends.
Wow.
I will get in my car and leave. Yeah, recently went on a date with a guy. I sat at the table for maybe 5 minutes, and he just wasn't doing it for me. I was just like, nah, this isn't going to work. I got up. I said, hey, man, I got to go pee. And I got up and I went to the hostess. I said, here's my credit card. Just go ahead and run it. I was like, I don't know what he's going to order, but get whatever he wants. I'm out of here. And she ran my card, and I fucking left the dude at the table.
Dude.
Yeah, I don't have time for it, man. Like, I have too much going on and
rough.
and too many good things to happen to sit there and dredge on.
Just when you know it's
with
not.
a boring ass date. Yeah,
Well, I can't.
I'm a dick about it, man.
All right,
and he's not the first person I've left there.
By the way, I might take it back. Yes, no, you're not too hard on yourself. That's messed up, man.
Well, I paid for his dinner.
Well, no, I'm not saying the way you financial, but you can't. That doesn't mean anything to him. He's still gonna feel rejected.
But it's that or him having to sit through a very awkward like back and forth for an hour. Yeah, like okay, hey, we sat down, we met, and nope, man, I'm out. Like. I'm saving you time. You get a free meal, and you get to enjoy it in peace. Watch some YouTube on your phone. I don't give a fuck.
You've got that hot girl power.
Yeah.
That you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where
I use that shit, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You figured it out, dude. I feel like
I don't want to waste their time or mine, man.
I feel like I'm being very serious here. I think you should start journaling this stuff if you don't already. You've got a good book in you somewhere.
Dude, that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, I've lived a very full life. So like the stories I could tell, that's why I did stand-up comedy for a little while.
What?
Which a lot of people don't know.
No.
Kara loves my comedy stories. I haven't told any on the podcast yet, but like I've lived a very full life in 40 years. Like, and I'd say at 30, I felt like, shit, if I die today, I've done it. You know what I mean? Like I haven't held anything back. I do what I want to do, and I don't hurt anybody in the process. Or at least I try not to. I try not to be an asshole.
Isn't it funny, though? Like, did you have a moment earlier on, like you said, in your 30s, where you accomplished more than you ever thought you would? And you were just like, my life is complete?
I didn't get that way until the painting of Stephen King happened.
Wow.
When they asked me to paint a portrait of him, because I'd always had in my mind that to be a really good painter, you had to be able to paint a portrait of someone.
Right.
And for it to be Stephen King, I was like, fucking, I'm done. Like, I'm hanging up the paintbrush. Like, literally, I can't ask for more than this. Like, this is where...
I think it's more that anyone could just paint Stephen King.
But being asked to...
You're working for his...
Yes.
Right? His written project. Like, something he made.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at his Twitter, the painting in the background's the one I did of him.
I'm going to have to check this out, Dad.
Yeah.
That's amazing, dude.
So, like, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, just not, be a dick along the way. Like, I post it all the time on Facebook. People are probably sick of seeing it, but you like the Avett Brothers?
I love them.
Okay, Ain't No Man is the name of the song. I listen to it every morning, and he talks about, I just want to spread love. Like, that makes me feel good every single day. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want people to love what I'm doing, and I want to spread that. Not me, the person, not the asshole that doesn't want to talk to you, the paintings that I'm doing. Yeah. That's the love I want to spread. You want to talk in that language. Yeah. And you want, Yeah, look at the art, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. You know what I mean? Yeah, but you got a lot to offer. I mean, your podcast is definitely... people are getting to know things they didn't know. I was... The first episode that I listened to was the first episode, and I was like, oh, I didn't expect this. Yeah. Dude. I had no idea. I was like, oh, he's going down the 90s Howard Stern route where he's just getting right into the sex talk. And I told her, I said, look, I'm not going to do this unless we can go no limit. Like, and she seems in on it. She is, like I said, with Kara, it's more like the enlightenment and the journey that she's went along with, like drug abuse and things in her past, like deep, crazy, heavy shit that we haven't even gotten to that I know about. And I'm like, okay, well then I'm going to have to be the other side of that. So for me, it's about, the funny side of it and the sex and the crazy things that have happened to me along the way. You know what I mean? To kind of lighten that. Because she's got some heavy shit, man. Like it's crazy. Yeah. Well, have you had any kind of substance
issues?
No, I don't do them. Like I don't do
amazing.
drugs. I don't do drugs. Yeah.
I think that's part of probably your key to success is you've always been able to be.
It's for me.
In control.
You're exactly right, because not to say that I haven't done drugs. I don't do drugs. I've done them, but it slows me down. It stops the creative process. It stops me from going to my easel and creating something beautiful, so that I can sit on the couch and veg out and watch South Park.
Yeah,
I'd much rather paint. You know, that's like I tell everybody all the time. I'm like, if tomorrow people stop buying my artwork, I'm still going to be at home making it.
You would just have more artwork of yourself.
Going to have more
to have in your own collection.
I get to keep some of it for once, but like I'm going to be painting it the rest of my life. Yeah, even if no one buys it.
That's a concept that's very difficult, I think, for people who aren't painters. To understand. Like if you're a photographer, you can sell the rights to your photos and whatnot, but it's like you always have a copy of it. You know, like you always have it. But once you give this for people listening, which there is no video aspect to this, so you're definitely listening. I have this beautiful gem painting that I purchased from Patrick that it took me over a month.
Almost 2 months, I think. It's been a while.
I bought it. Then I was like, I'll come pick it up. And then like the day came and I was like, all right, I'll come another day. And then I was just like, and it kept, it was all on me just because I'm
like, I have an assistant, man. I can send him with. But honestly, that's part that goes back to the not printing things, because every time I give up a piece, like that's a piece that's just theirs. You know, there was that moment in time where I created that, and there's the only
that's the
one.
Conversation. And
there's only going to ever be that one. I'll never do another one like it. You know what I mean? Like it is.
That's awesome, dude.
Like Kara always asks me, she's like, "What's your favorite piece?" And I was like, "The last one that I did."
Yeah,
you know, it's always my favorite every time.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Unless it's no, I shouldn't say unless. But does that include when you're painting as somebody else? When you're paint acting?
No, because I hate doing that.
Well,
I mean, I'm good at it,
and
I like it in the sense that financially it's good for me, and I like seeing it on TV. I don't like the fact that no one knows it's me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, God damn it! Like I busted my ass on this, like getting this right. You know, because looking at season 3, you may see a painting on there, but it took me 10 tries to get to that level that they wanted that piece to look like.
Right.
So it might have started off looking like Bob Ross, and by the end looks like Basquiat. You know, I've got to find that level with them of where they want it at, and then I got to reproduce it a lot. Man. And if you watch the show, this is the funny one. There's a nude of Kate Mulgrew that I had to paint. So
you said,
I'll tell you the story. I'll make it quick.
Okay.
Merrick is the, probably shouldn't have said his name, but anyway, he's,
Derek. Yes.
Yeah. We'll go with that. Derek shows up. He's from Poland, tiny, short guy, always wears a black leather jacket, even in the summers in Charleston. He's the art director, or one of the art directors. And he comes to my house, and he had dropped off all the things that were going to be inside of her home that I had to paint still lifes of. I don't paint still lifes, but I had to. So my house is full of movie props, right? Well, he sits on my couch, and this dude's won Emmys. Like he did like stuff for Schindler's List, and like, I mean, he's a big deal. And he's sitting on my couch, and I said, all right, Merrick. He's like, well, I have something for you. And I said, what? He said, I need you to paint a nude. And I said, okay, of who? And he said, of Kate. You need to paint a nude. And I said, I'm going to be working with her. I don't really want to paint her nude. There's not naked pictures of Kate Mulgrew on the internet, just so you know. I had to look. There are none.
Yeah, he goes, Photoshop.
But he goes, you know, she's a very voluptuous woman, and you should paint her that way. And I said, okay, that's fucking weird, man. It's going to be a self-portrait in a style that I don't do, of a nude of someone that I admire, who's going to see it and know I did it.
Right.
Pressure's on, right? I said, well, what color is her hair going to be? Because I know it's red and orange is the new black, but her natural color is more of a sandy blonde. Like, what color? Yeah. And at this point, she had not been on set. This is all pre-production. He's like, well, I don't know. He's like, just make it red. He's like, maybe give her a red bush. I said, son of a bitch, dude. Did you just say red bush in my house? Hold on. And I pulled my phone out, and I was like, I need you to say it one more time. I need to record this. And he's like, put your phone down, Patrick. Put your phone down. So if you watch the show, the bathroom sex scene, There's a picture of a huge painting of Kate Mulgrew nude, laying in the grass with a red bush.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I painted it.
That's fantastic. But so you didn't have any, you just had to draw it from.
Yeah, it was just painted a voluptuous woman, and it was very abstract, so I got to play around with it a lot. But
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say she showed up and like, okay,
shit, no.
Draw me like one of your French
I would have
girls.
died.
Deal.
Dude, well, it was funny because like, I have this Emmy Award winner sitting on my couch, and I'm like, can I offer you a tap water, maybe a coffee,
Well, they're just people. They're artists just like you.
They are. Just
I don't think. I think when you meet someone like that, and then when you get to know them,
they're just normal people,
and then you realize how attainable that is. Because I have friends in that have won Grammys, and because of what they've worked on.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing when you think about that, because you just don't understand how like. It seems when you're growing up, that seems like
unattainable.
Yeah, it seems like something
for sure.
Only the top echelon of any.
When I did season 1, I was so scared and like my hands were shaking. I'm walking around set like looking at these set pieces and things, and I'm just fascinated by every. My brain is like on overdrive, and so by the time season 3 comes around, you get comfortable. You've met all these people. You've had the conversations. You've talked to them. You know what I mean? And and you realize, they're just regular people. Yeah.
They're just working artists.
The only time I got really nervous was Bill Murray. Bill Murray scared the shit out of me because I was such a fan. I kind of fanboyed out on him, but everybody else has been.
He must be used to it. He's very aware.
Yeah, but like an asshole, like he was like 10 feet away from me. I held a door for him to leave out of a door. And my best friend's standing in front of me, and I open the door and I hold it because it's fucking Bill Murray. And I hold the door for the dude. And he gets like 10, 20 feet away from me. And I'm like, I love you, Bill Murray. Like, I couldn't even control it. It just happened.
It has to.
And I look over at my friend and he mouths it. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't even know why I said it. Like, I have no idea.
He's the one guy I think you could say it to.
Yeah, because he literally turned around and he goes, "Look, love you too, man." That was it.
He's so used to it. I have to believe that of anybody who has gotten to that level, he's the one guy who just embraces it.
Yeah, he does. He knows who he is. He's very comfortable.
I've never heard of him being resentful of his.
No,
of
he's
his
not.
fame.
He's not.
Yeah.
Like Darius Rucker. Darius Rucker is a really nice guy.
Yeah.
But like, I know him personally. I don't like his music, so he doesn't intimidate me. You know what I mean? So like, when I talk to him, it's very casual. I'm like, I fuck with him about country because I hate country music, and I was like, dude,
But you love the Avett Brothers
song sucks ass. And different kind of country, but like
they're doing more Americana folk.
But I'm able to pick on him, because he doesn't intimidate me the way that like Bill Murray, man, scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like I was probably shaking when he walked by.
I mean, then you think of like the Garfield movies.
He's my whole. Well, yeah, that all. But dude, I grew up on Caddyshack and Ghostbusters and all that. That was still my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, even the Stripes. You go and watch.
Dude, yeah. I'm an 80s kid all the way, man. So like anything from the 80s, cartoons, movies, everything.
Yeah,
that's on heavy rotation. I mean, shit, I paint the stuff.
Hell yeah.
So definitely left an impression.
You've turned. Well, I do think. I think that stuff was coming back anyway, regardless. Like it was becoming kind of a trendy. But I do think once this is over, we're going to have a kind of glam type of.
Oh, you think glam rock will come back?
Not so much. Just a glamorous glam, kind of like over the top kind of celebration of life.
Okay.
Bold colors.
I'm thinking like the glam rock of the 80s, like because I would love to see that shit come back. I want the Farrah Fawcett hair back.
Yeah.
I want not that I can grow hair, but
just
I want everybody else to have it.
Yeah, just outwardly candy coated. Just get your mind off of the bullshit we went through type of stuff.
Hey,
an expression of
just
love.
Bring on the neon,
happiness.
man.
Yeah,
bring on the neon.
I think it's coming, man.
I would love that. Coming. That'd be a beautiful world.
I mean, I was talking to somebody about maybe it was Kalen Hoyer, but the Roaring 20s.
Yeah.
How that came after the pandemic of the Spanish flu.
Uh-huh.
And then you had the Roaring 20s. Hopefully we don't get the depression. But
yeah.
Hopefully we can figure out a way not to suffer through that. But
dude, I'm all for it, man.
Yeah. Let's bring out the fun times.
Mm-hmm.
Even the 80s. I mean, as screwed up as the time that was.
Well, dude, as much as we thought it was crazy back then, but looking back on it, it was like, man, that was Fun shit.
Hell yeah.
I had a good time.
We need some Miami Vice in this shit.
Hell yeah. Hell yes.
Some just crazy, like nutty stuff.
I need a white, a white suit and we
Yeah.
had that fucking like pink tie and the
There you go.
white sport coat.
Yeah.
John Johnson.
Driving convertibles and speedboats and
Yeah.
all this stuff.
I need the Magnum PI shorts to come back.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm done.
Well, I think they ruined the Hawaiian shirts, though. I don't think those are coming back.
No.
Those are done.
No.
Those are done. Those go in the way of red hat, baseball caps, too.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, well. All right, man. Well, give some plugs here.
Ooh, the artofpatrickpricket.com. Instagram is a huge thing, and I love Instagram. So Patrick_Pricket_art.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And
that's
I'll
the
link
main
it all
stuff.
up in the show note.
Yeah.
And then, dude, this has been awesome.
Dude, thanks for having me in here, man. This is fun.
I got to come and do your
Dude,
podcast
you
at
got
some
to,
point.
man. I love your setup, man. Me and Kara got 2 10 cans and a string. Like, this
But
is
that's-
nice.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
ours
I'm
is-
I'm a nerd. You know what I'm saying? Like
ours is very punk rock. Like,
Yeah. I went total. I nerded out. I
Dude.
was like, I had to figure out. Okay, what I needed to get equipment that if I decided I didn't like this anymore,
Yeah.
I could use for music.
Well, we bought a ton of it, and then
Yeah.
Kara and me don't know how to use it, so it just sits there. Half of the equipment that we bought, and I bought really nice stuff. She's like sending me all these links. I buy it all. We don't know how to work any of this shit. And it's funny because she does all the music for the intro of our own. She changes it every episode. 'Cause
Yeah.
She does all the
Wait,
editing and all
is
that.
she recording music?
That's
for it?
her.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's her doing all of that. I don't do none of that shit. And then, so like we're in her like studio or whatever, and it's surrounded by musical instruments. So like I've got a drum set behind me. She's got a drum set behind her. Like it's
That's so
very, very garage
Well,
band.
tell her because I did listen to the most recent episode that she has a real crush on MXPX. Tell
She
her I
does.
spent 6 weeks with those guys.
Wow.
In Australia.
She'll cream.
And so she wants to know anything about that. And in fact, I'll tease this here.
Uh-oh.
So we did the Warp Tour.
Yeah.
And so it was 2 main stages, right?
Mhm.
And so they would, while one band was playing, the other band would set up.
Yeah.
And then there was a transition.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we'd fuck with the band because we were truly like the unknown punks that were there.
Yeah.
And depending on who was playing before or after us, we might fuck with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd play their song
Going
into their
just to be
transition.
A dick. Yeah.
Or we'd just play us. So one day, like they were coming up right after us, and we just started playing because I'm like, oh, you guys like Jesus? And so we started playing Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they came in and finished the song.
Same. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
I think they knew at that point probably that they were.
They weren't very like
They weren't
didn't
very
come
Christian?
Across, well, they didn't
No.
come across that way. It wasn't like they were.
No.
They were truly nice people, though.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Like, I just couldn't. Anytime somebody was like on that Christian label, I just refused. I was like, that's not punk rock. That's not punk rock.
Well,
You're not doing drugs. You're not fucking anyone. Like, no crimes are being committed. I can't get behind this.
But
Like, this isn't punk rock.
you
to
didn't
me.
like Minor Threat?
No.
Oh,
No.
I don't know. There's something about the straight edge thing in New York that
Yeah.
it was so prominent that you couldn't avoid it.
Yeah,
When I grew up,
there were
so many kids that were straight edge.
and there were a couple of kids in
Yeah.
like bands back then in my hometown that were doing punk rock music, but they were still going the straight edge route with it. And I'm just like, man, that just doesn't seem very punk rock to me. Like, no, can't get behind it.
I always got hung up on the no sex part.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just like, well, you lost me.
Yeah,
you don't want
I'm
to
like,
drink?
I'm
Cool.
like, you're in a
Smoke?
band not to fuck. That doesn't make sense to me. Like
Well, just
the whole reason I wanted to do stand up comedy, I'm like, I'm gonna be the lead singer every night because I'm
Right.
the only motherfucker on stage.
You're the lead singer, the lead guitar player,
Yeah,
the rhythm section.
You make someone laugh. Oh yeah, you're in. That's an end. So yeah, that's the whole reason I got into stand up. It was for sex. Yeah.
It's cool that you could admit it, though.
Yeah, well, everybody knew it. Like anyone that came to see my show.
Did you start? Was your opening line? So, like,
Dude,
listen, here's my phone number.
I had gotten booked at a club, and I did not know because the guy that was representing me at the time, he didn't really tell me much about it, and this is before the time of Googling things.
Yeah.
And I show up at the club, and I'm walking into a predominantly black club. Fine, no big deal.
Uh-huh.
I walk up, and the guy at the front door stops me. He goes, "Where are you going?" Because I was bypassing the line. I said, "I'm performing." And he said, "Not here, you're not." And I was like, "Yeah," because I went by James Patrick. I said, I'm James Patrick. I should be on your list." He goes, "Whew, good luck." And so I walked in. I was like, "Son of a bitch, I'm going to kill my agent." And I go in and like, I literally made the entire 12-minute set about my little white dick. And I killed. It was awesome. I had one of the best shows of my life just talking about how small my cock was and still got laid that night.
There you go.
Telling you, man, doesn't matter. You make someone laugh, doesn't matter how small your dick is.
Yeah. Oh, that's fucking great, dude.
Yeah.
This has been awesome.
Thanks.
This has been awesome. I'm afraid if we don't stop it, we're just gonna keep going.
Dude, we'll be here all night, and I gotta piss already.
Yeah. All right, dude. Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a word. I said fuck you up. All right, man. Peace. Before you get going, don't forget to subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And also, you can check out more at jwnpod.com or follow me on Instagram at Joe Latent. That's at JOEL, the number 8X. Have a great day. Peace.